writer, director, editor, composer, visual effects, lead actor. I got paid my writer's fee and burnt the rest of it, and did the visual effects unpaid for 36 weeks to get it done.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Creators Channel. My name is Chris Kelly with ProductionCrate.com, and today I am joined by Michael Shanks. Michael is a director, a visual effects artist. Michael does some composing. You probably know him for his series Wizards of Aus and his shorts Rebooted and Time Trap, which I absolutely love. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here.
What is your day-to-day work like? I know you have timtimfed, which is your YouTube channel, and then you have LateNite Films, which is more like the production company side. My
day-to-day, as you've kind of hinted at, I wear a lot of hats in production. I work kind of freelance visual effects as visual effects for myself, but predominantly I am a writer-director, and all the other stuff like visual effects and composing and editing is to like supplant my ability to create those sorts of productions. I've been fortunate enough whereby I've been largely employed as a writer for the last few years based on some Screen Australia funded productions.
It is pretty amazing that you compose and direct and write, and you're a solid actor too, but I know a lot of people...
You're the first person to ever say that.
You are. You nail a lot of the comedy. Why are you acting in your stuff?
Well, the way that I absolutely began in filmmaking, and I'll keep this quick, is I was in my final year of high school, and I was kind of, looking into, I was realizing, wow, you can learn visual effects at home. Andrew Kramer was kind of blowing my mind and all that stuff. I was going on this video game website called The Escapist Magazine, and they had a film festival competition. And they said, hey, submit a video for this film festival, and the prize is a contract turning that video into a series. So essentially submit a pilot. So I made this 5-minute long kind of action comedy thing, and it won the film festival. So I was 17.
Wow.
And I had this contract all of a sudden with this American gaming website saying, every fortnight we're going to pay you to produce an action comedy piece, because that was the pilot that I'd made. This is all a long-winded way of saying that's why I had to do everything myself. There was no industry people involved at all. It was just my friends that were taking gap years would come along and help. So I had to learn how to shoot, how to edit, how to do this, how to do that. And I was the lead actor in that show because, I'd done theater and I was always free. I was always going to be available when I was shooting. It's little decisions like that, but I'd also be lying if I said I don't really enjoy putting on costumes and being a goofus.
For those of you listening or watching, if you haven't seen Wizards of Aus, and it's Aus, A-U-S, like Australia, go check it out. The whole series is on YouTube, and it is one of the best web series out there. The level of ambition that you guys took on with Wizards was immense. I think I heard 1,200 visual effects shots were packed into this series. Did you direct the whole series too?
Yeah, so my role on the series was I co-wrote it with Nick. I directed the whole series. Me and Chris edited it, and I composed all the music. I did the visual effects with Chris, and I was the lead actor. I did all of those roles because I love those roles, and where I kind of came from in the first place was very much, you have to do everything or it's not going to exist. As I've moved up onto bigger productions, I have, been a little reticent to but I want to compose, but I still want to do this, even though it's maybe not the best choice. I'd come from this world of completely indie, no money at all, and the cast that you were using and the people that you were using were just whichever friends happened to be unemployed at that time would come and kind of act it and come and kind of hold the camera or whatever. And then we suddenly have this web series budget. Rightfully so, you have to pay everybody because it's a government grant in order to employ people in the industry and kind of foster talent, and which is awesome. It's I'm going to be able to pay everybody, but then you're looking at the minimum rates of things. It's oh wow, that money is gone so quickly. We had to pay everybody, but we didn't have to pay ourselves. And that was kind of how we made the budget work. So writer, director, editor, composer, visual effects, lead actor. I got paid my writer's fee and burnt the rest of it. And I moved back into my mum's house and did the visual effects unpaid for 36 weeks. So basically a year of unpaid work to get it done. I don't really delineate between the different roles so much. To me, it's all kind of I'm filmmaking, but it's not so much that I'm directing and I'm writing and I'm doing visual effects, I think of visual effects as part of the writing process, because when I'm writing, I'm not scared to go in the directions that other writers might have been taught, don't write to that because that's going to be expensive and the producers are going to shut it down. But when writing Wizards, knowing that I was going to be doing the visual effects for free, and we had access essentially to free visual effects, it enabled us to write wherever the jokes would take us. And I continue that forward, like when I'm writing, is not shying away from tricky things.
I want to talk a little bit about Time Trap. Did you write direct, do the visual effects for all that as well?
Yes, that's correct. That came about because I had been making kind of online content for a while and it'd been going really well. And I thought, I haven't really made a short film. I haven't really made like a film festival-y short film. So Time Trap was like, I want to make something like really like visually complicated, really like science fiction-y, really kind of out there and really kind of push my abilities as a visual effects artist, as a visual storyteller. It was the first time I ever did any kind of like remotely 3D work. It's like a Castaway narrative, but instead of it being Tom Hanks stranded on a deserted island, it's an alien stranded on a deserted Earth. I wanted to make something just like really, really, really hard and something that was really kind of audacious in terms of what can be done from a short film with no budget. Like the budget was, I think, about $7,000. That was just money I had saved up. The film opens with like a 2-minute long kind of silent comedy action sequence whereby this guy's spaceship sort of veers and careens off course and goes through an asteroid field, and he's desperately trying to correct it before it crash lands on the planet. But the plot really kicks in when he's crash landed on the planet. Like it would have been easy to remove that scene altogether, but I thought, no, I want to do an asteroid chase. That'll be awesome. And that's what I mean when I say like I wanted it to be very like complicated. Yeah,
there's this one shot that you have when the guy crash lands. He's doing the time capsule type things, interacts with them in some way, and you have one shot that looks like it might be like a motion controlled rig. How did you pull that off?
There was no way we could afford a motion control rig, and I really wanted to do that shot. And we managed to hire a Steadicam rig and a Steadicam operator. And I just said, let's just do it. Let's just repeat the same action. Just do it as best you can, and hopefully it'll work.
Yeah.
And so the Steadicam operator just did a great job, and it more or less worked. We didn't do tests. I never do tests. We just shoot it and figure it out later. And I was really surprised that worked as well as it did.
Recently, you released Rebooted, which, again, is a fantastic short film.
Yeah, I think like the way that I know that a project is worth pursuing for me, and that it also goes for the longer form ones, is I get really hung up on premises. I love like premise-based stuff. Like I love being able to distill a premise in a sentence down to a sentence that makes people go like, wow, I've never seen that before. In short, like I got it down to that sentence, which was, oh, what if there was a stop motion animated skeleton who is now an unemployed visual effect because he's an out of date visual effect? And going back to like a premise that I'd never seen before, is I thought, well, then you could create a world whereby old timey, Hollywood creatures and characters and effects are, now irrelevant, but they live in the real world and maybe they're auditioning for film roles. And you can have a world in which you can have the history of Hollywood special and visual effects standing side by side in the same live action frame. There was a development period whereby I had the idea, but I didn't have a script, and I rebooted the script probably more times than I've ever rewritten anything. It was all really dialogue heavy, and it wasn't till my playwright friend Laura Lethlean suggested, why don't you just pull the dialogue out, that I suddenly thought, oh my God, like, of course, like that's what I do in all of my work, and suddenly pulling the dialogue out, it worked way better. I was just having endless wordplay and endless like little word gags, but I always respond much stronger to visual gags. I love like Pixar films. I love Pixar short films. I love animated short films, and that was really what I was thinking of with this thing.
Something that a lot of sketch comedies or any comedies that I see, whether it's a short film festival or YouTube videos, is they don't seem to know how to do comedy in post. Do you write those jokes into the script, or do you come up with them in post-production? I think I delineate in roles a little differently than maybe other filmmakers, because I do a lot of the departments or am involved in the departments so much that like a lot of people say when you're writing, like, don't direct on the page. I endlessly direct on the page because I'm always going to be directing this page. So yeah, for me, my process is always write, storyboard, and then on the day, just capture the storyboards. And if I capture those boards, then I'm good. I feel like it's so hard to produce comedy, but everything you've done that's meant to be funny is very funny. So congratulations. All right, let's do some speed questions, Michael.
Let's do it.
What is the most common mistake you see newbie filmmakers making?
People should put themselves in the shoes of an audience member more. I think it's easy to forget that somebody's going to watch this and you actually want their attention to be held. And that doesn't necessarily mean, explosions and dragons, which is kind of my hacky bag of tricks, but just like, give me something to engage with straight away.
What is one of your favorite comedy movies?
I think my favorite movie of all time might be Hot Fuzz. That feels too modern to say because
no way, man. Hot Fuzz is great.
It's just so great. It does everything that I love, which is, parodies a genre whilst also being a great piece of that genre.
Do you know how many bones are in the human body?
I'm going to say 75.
206.
Well, there you go.
So you're in some fantasy world, and you guys are going to go raid a vampire camp. What weapon would you wield for that?
Well, the first thing that pops into my head is from the very not good Van Helsing film. He invents a Gatling crossbow. It's like a machine gun crossbow, which shoots out either crossbow bolts or maybe they're little stakes because he's a vampire hunter. And that's what I'm thinking is I want a fully automatic crossbow that shoots wooden stakes.
If you could communicate with any animal, what animal would you talk to?
Well, the boring answer, which is probably the real answer, would be cats or dogs. However, when I have thought in the past if I could have any animal familiar, and this is a slightly different question, I really want a big crow. I want a giant crow. Yeah. I think that'd be awesome. A crow that I could ride like a horse. A horse-sized crow.
Big crow, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very big crow.
We're still in the fantasy world with the vampires and your Gatling gun, just riding this giant crow.
Yeah, straddling this crow like a Valkyrie, shooting at these vampires.
Michael, thank you so much for doing this interview. Can you tell our viewers and listeners where they can find your work?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So I make work, put it online under the name timtimfed, TIMTIMFED, and that's that on YouTube and on Twitter and Facebook and stuff. But YouTube's kind of the main place to find me, or Twitter if you want to come say hi, ask some questions. That's where I'll be. Thanks, Chris, for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, great talking with you, Michael. See you, man.